Hey everyone, tonight we're going somewhere vast, empty, and incredibly dangerous. We're leaving the familiar cities behind and venturing into one of the most formidable environments on Earth, the Taklamakan Desert, the place of no return. We are traveling with a great caravan along the Silk Road in the 1st century AD, a river of humanity and commerce flowing between the empires of Rome and Han China. Your world is one of plodding camels, of immense wealth measured in silk and spices, and of a sky so large it feels like it could swallow you whole. But tonight, that sky is turning against you. A dark, yellow-brown wall is rising on the horizon, and the wind is beginning to whisper a terrible, ancient song. A sandstorm is coming, a Karabaran or black blizzard, and your survival will depend not on your sword or your purse, but on the ancient, hard-won knowledge of the desert. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, let your mind wander, and allow the gentle rhythm of my voice to lull you towards sleep. Maybe settle in, pull your blanket a little closer, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are a Sogdian merchant, a member of an ancient Iranian people who were the undisputed masters of the Silk Road. For centuries, your people have been the middlemen, the essential connective tissue linking the great civilizations of the East and West. Your home is a bustling oasis city like Samarkand or Bokhara, but your true home is the road. You are a man of many languages, able to haggle in a dozen different tongues. You understand the complex currents of international trade, the fluctuating prices of silk in Antioch and of Roman glass in Chang'an. But more importantly, you understand the desert. You have learned to read its subtle signs, to respect its immense power, and to fear its sudden, violent rages. Your caravan is a massive, slow-moving city. It consists of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of Bactrian camels, the two-humped, shaggy beasts that are the true kings of this domain. They are laden with a fortune. Your own camels carry bolts of precious silk from China, a fabric so magical and mysterious to the Romans that they believed it grew on trees. Other merchants in the caravan carry spices from India, cinnamon, pepper, cloves, and exotic goods like jade, lacquerware, and rhubarb, a plant prized for its medicinal properties. The caravan is protected by a contingent of hardened mercenaries, perhaps Scythian horse archers, their faces weathered and scarred, their eyes constantly scanning the horizon for the threat of bandits who prey on these slow-moving treasure chests. The journey is a long one, a trek of many months across some of the most inhospitable terrain on the planet. Your life on the road is a monotonous rhythm of plodding and waiting. You rise before dawn, you load the camels in the freezing cold, you walk all day under a merciless sun, and you make camp at night, huddling around a small fire made of dried camel dung, the only fuel available in this treeless wasteland. You live in a state of constant, low-grade discomfort. You are always thirsty, your water rationed from smelly leather skins. You are always dirty, your skin and clothes coated in a fine layer of dust. And you are always surrounded by the same small group of people, your world shrinking to the size of the caravan. And then, one afternoon, the veteran Bactrian caravan master, the Akid, a man who has walked this road for 50 years, stops. He sniffs the air. He looks at the horizon. You see nothing, but he sees everything. The wind has changed, he says. It has a different taste, a different sound. The camels are restless, their groans taking on a new, anxious pitch. He points to a faint, yellowish haze on the western horizon. A storm is coming, he says, his voice grim. A big one, and when a man like this speaks, you listen. Panic is a luxury you cannot afford. Survival depends on swift, disciplined, and immediate action. The caravan master barks a series of sharp commands, and the entire caravan transforms from a slow-moving line into a hive of frantic, purposeful activity. The first command is to get the camels down. The camel is your greatest asset in a sandstorm. You and the other drivers force your complaining, groaning camels to their knees, making them lie down on the sand in a tight, circular formation, their heads facing inwards. This creates a living, breathing wall, a temporary fortress of flesh and bone that will be your only shield against the fury of the wind. Next, you secure the cargo. The precious bolts of silk are covered with heavy felt blankets to protect them from the abrasive, sand-filled wind. The more delicate items are placed in the center of the camel circle. Every rope is checked and tightened. Anything loose, a cooking pot, a loose tent pole, will become a deadly projectile in the winds to come. It is a race against time. The yellow haze on the horizon is no longer a haze. It is a solid wall, a roiling, terrifying mass of sand and dust that is moving towards you with astonishing speed. The sky darkens, the sun blotted out, and the world is plunged into a strange, apocalyptic twilight. The wind, which was a whisper, is now a rising moan, and then a full-throated, deafening roar. And then it hits you. It is not like wind. It is a physical assault, a solid thing that slams into you with the force of a battering ram. The air is no longer air. It is a thick, choking, abrasive soup of sand. You cannot see more than a few inches in front of your face. You huddle on the leeward side of your kneeling camel, burying your face in its coarse, shaggy fur. The animal's warmth a small comfort against the storm's fury. You wrap your turban, or whatever cloth you have, around your head, covering your nose and mouth. To inhale this sand-filled air is to have your lungs scoured raw. The noise is absolute, a constant, deafening roar that drowns out all other sounds, even your own thoughts. It is like being inside the belly of a roaring god. Now, your only job is to endure. There is nothing to do but wait. Hours pass, though you have no way of measuring time in the perpetual, howling darkness. The wind is relentless, constantly trying to tear your clothes from your body and to scour the skin from your bones. The sand gets everywhere. It works its way into your eyes, your ears, your throat. It grinds between your teeth. The static electricity generated by the billions of flying sand particles can be so intense that it makes your hair stand on end, and can even create small, strange sparks of St. Elmo's fire that dance on the tips of the camel's humps. A terrifying and ghostly light in the roaring darkness. Your greatest enemy is thirst. The air is superheated and incredibly dry, and it leaches the moisture from your body with terrifying speed. You take small, precious sips from your water skin, but you know it will not be enough. You feel your lips crack, your tongue swell in your mouth. The other great danger is being buried. The wind whips the sand into great, moving dunes. You can feel the sand piling up against your body and against the bodies of the camels. Periodically, you must shift to shake off the accumulating sand to avoid being slowly entombed. You and your camel are a small, insignificant island in a sea of moving earth. Throughout the ordeal, you stay close to your camel. Your life is tied to its survival. You murmur soothing words to it, trying to keep it calm amidst the terrifying noise and chaos. Its sheer bulk is your primary protection, and its own incredible adaptations to the desert are your best hope. Its ability to shut its nostrils, its double row of eyelashes, these things are what keep it alive, and by extension, you huddle together, a small, two-species community against the overwhelming power of nature. This is the ultimate test of the bond between a man and his animal, a bond forged in shared hardship on the endless road. You are not its master. You are its dependent, and you are profoundly grateful for its quiet, stubborn endurance. The storm can last for hours or it can last for days. It is a timeless, placeless purgatory of noise and grit. And then, as suddenly as it began, it can stop. The roar of the wind diminishes to a moan, then to a whisper, and then there is silence. A silence so profound and absolute it feels even louder than the storm that preceded it. Slowly, cautiously, you lift your head. The world has been remade. The landscape you knew just hours ago is gone, replaced by a new geography of smooth, rolling dunes. The air is still thick with fine dust, casting the sun as a pale, ghostly disk in the sky. Your first thought is not of your cargo, but of your life. You check yourself, then the men huddled near you. You check your camel, speaking to it, running your hands over it, ensuring it can still stand. A wave of immense relief washes over you if you have all survived. But the ordeal is far from over. Now begins the desperate work of recovery. The first and most urgent task is to find the rest of the caravan. During the storm, you were a small, isolated unit. The other parts of the caravan, the other circles of camels and men, are now buried under the new landscape. The caravan master, using his incredible knowledge of the caravan's layout before the storm, will begin to organize a search. You hear the sound of conch shells or horns being blown, their mournful notes cutting through the dusty silence, a way for the scattered survivors to find one another. You and your fellow merchants begin the grim task of digging. You dig for your cargo, praying that the silk has not been shredded by the abrasive wind or that the pottery has not been crushed under the weight of the shifting sand. But more importantly, you dig for the other members of the caravan. You might uncover a camel that has been completely buried but is, miraculously, still alive. Or you might uncover the still, silent form of a man who was not so lucky, who suffocated under the weight of the sand. Every discovery is a roll of the dice, a moment of either profound relief or profound grief. The process of reassembling the caravan can take an entire day or more. Once the survivors and the salvageable cargo have been gathered, a new and terrifying reality sets in. You are lost. The storm has completely erased the landscape. The familiar dunes, the rock outcroppings, the subtle landmarks that the caravan master used to navigate are all gone, replaced by a new, alien world of sand. All you can see in any direction is an endless, featureless sea of yellow-brown. Your supply of water, already low, is now critical. The caravan master must now perform his most important and most magical task. He must find the way again. He will study the position of the sun. He will wait for nightfall to read the eternal, unchanging map of the stars. He might consult with the other experienced travelers, debating the direction of the nearest oasis, their lives hanging on their collective memory and their ancient knowledge. The days that follow the storm are a slow, desperate march. The pace is forced, the water rations cut to a dangerous minimum. The sun is a relentless hammer. The heat reflecting off the sand is a physical blow. You see men begin to succumb to dehydration and heat stroke, their minds beginning to wander, their bodies giving out. A man who can no longer walk is a dead man. In this unforgiving environment, the caravan cannot stop for the weak. He will be left behind with a small skin of water, a final, futile gesture of mercy. You walk on, your own throat a desert, your mind a haze of thirst and exhaustion, trying not to look back. The camels, too, are suffering. Even these magnificent ships of the desert have their limits. You watch them for signs of distress, for the telltale signs of dehydration and exhaustion. The loss of a camel is more than just the loss of an animal. It is the loss of cargo, the loss of wealth, and the loss of a vital part of the caravan's life support system. You do what you can for your own animal, sharing your own meager water ration, whispering words of encouragement, but you know that you are all at the mercy of the desert. And then, after days of this desperate, thirsty march, you see it. It might be a distant, hazy line of green on the horizon, or the caravan master might simply declare that a well is near. A new energy surges through the exhausted caravan. The pace quickens. When you finally arrive at the oasis, it is a scene of pure, unadulterated joy. You rush to the well, plunging your head into the cool, life-giving water, drinking until your belly aches. The camels drink for what seems like an eternity, their great bodies rehydrating. The oasis, a small, miraculous patch of green in the vast emptiness, is paradise. You will rest here for several days, recovering your strength, repairing your gear, and mourning your dead. This is the life of a Silk Road merchant. It is a life of immense risk, of constant hardship, and of a profound intimacy with the brutal power of the natural world. But it is also a life of immense reward. If you survive, if you complete your journey to the markets of the West, the profits you make from your cargo of silk will make you a wealthy man. You will return to your home in Samarkand with Roman glass, with fine wool, and with silver that will allow you to build a grander house and to fund an even larger caravan for your next journey. You are a gambler, and the desert is your opponent. Sometimes it will let you win, but you know with a deep and abiding certainty that it can claim you at any time. And as you continue your journey, your eyes will forever be scanning the horizon, your senses forever attuned to the taste of the wind, always listening for the first whisper of the next great storm. The year is 1785. The sun, a timid, watery gray presence, is just beginning to filter through the tall windows of your opulent apartment in Paris. But you have been awake for hours. You are Monsieur Leonard, coiffeur to the Queen of France, Marie Antoinette. You are not a simple barber who gives rough shaves to merchants. You are an artist, a sculptor, a high-stakes political strategist whose medium is not marble or paint, but human hair. Your creations, the magnificent, towering hairstyles known as poufs, are the talk of Europe. They are not just fashion. They are statements, billboards of status, allegiances, and even political opinions, worn on the heads of the most powerful women in the kingdom. Your workshop is the nerve center of Parisian style, and your hands, though they smell faintly of orange flower pomade and rice powder, hold a strange and delicate form of power. But it is a power that rests on the fickle whims of a single woman, and every day is a terrifying high-wire act. Your morning does not begin with a prayer, but with a ritual of a different sort. You stand before a long table in your private salon, a room filled with the tools of your trade. It is a bewildering and slightly mad arsenal. There are combs of ivory and tortoiseshell in a dozen different sizes. There are curling irons or fers à friser, which must be heated to the perfect temperature over a small charcoal brazier. Too cool and the curl will not hold. Too hot and you will singe the precious hair of a duchess, a catastrophic and career-ending mistake. There are boxes and boxes of hairpins, cushions of various sizes made of wool or cork that will form the inner scaffolding of your creations, and long hanks of false hair, carefully sorted by color and texture. And then there is the powder, great, soft, fragrant mountains of it. It is mostly a fine, white starch made from wheat or rice, but it is scented with a dizzying array of expensive perfumes: orris root, violet, jasmine, rose. This powder is the very foundation of 18th century beauty, the soft, matte finish that transforms a mere mortal into a porcelain doll, and you are its high priest. You spend the first hour of your day in preparation, a process as meticulous as a general planning a battle. Your assistants, a team of young, ambitious hairdressers who hope to one day learn your secrets, are already at work. They are cleaning the combs, heating the irons, and mixing fresh batches of pomade, a greasy substance made from animal fat, usually bear grease, scented with spices and flowers. This pomade is the glue that will hold your creations together. You, meanwhile, are focused on design. You are not just thinking about hair. You are thinking about the day's events at the court of Versailles. Who is the queen meeting with today? Is there a ball? A state dinner? Is a particular political alliance in favor or out of favor? All of this information is crucial. Your hairstyle for the queen will be a message, a carefully calibrated signal to the thousands of courtiers who spend their lives decoding such things. A simple hairstyle might signal that the queen is in a sober, pious mood. A more elaborate one, filled with ribbons and jewels, could signal her favor towards a particular courtier. And then there are the great poofs, the storytelling hairstyles that are your signature creations. These are not just hairstyles. They are narrative sculptures. For the birth of the dauphin, the heir to the throne, you might create the poof à la naissance, incorporating symbols of fertility and motherhood. When the French Navy wins a minor naval victory, you might create the poof à la belle poule, a towering creation that includes a fully rigged model of the victorious French frigate, complete with tiny cannons and sails, floating on a sea of powdered hair. To create such a thing is absurd, it is magnificent, and it is intensely political. It is your job to translate the events of the world into the language of hair. Your thoughts are interrupted by a knock on the door. A royal footman has arrived. Her Majesty, the Queen, requires your presence at Versailles immediately. This is the summons you wait for every day with a mixture of excitement and dread. You carefully pack your tools into a series of velvet-lined cases. You select the powders, the pomades, the pins, and the hanks of false hair you might need. You are preparing for a creative battle, and you must arrive with all your weapons. You travel to Versailles not in a common carriage, but in your own, a sign of your immense success and status. As you make the journey from Paris to the Great Palace, you review your strategy for the day. You have heard whispers from your network of spies, the ladies' maids, the valets, the sellers of ribbons and lace, that the queen is in a difficult mood. She is feeling constrained by the rigid etiquette of the French court, and she is looking to make a statement, something that will shock the old, conservative duchesses who disapprove of her Austrian origins and her frivolous ways. You arrive at the Palace of Versailles, a universe of its own, a glittering labyrinth of marble, gold, and mirrors. You do not enter through the main gates. You have your own private entrance, a privilege that infuriates the lesser nobles. You navigate the maze of back corridors and private apartments, your assistants trailing behind you, carrying your cases. The air in the palace is thick with intrigue. You can feel the weight of 1,000 jealous eyes upon you. You are a commoner, a man who works with his hands, yet you have one of the most intimate and powerful positions at court. You have the private ear of the queen for several hours every single day. You hear the secrets, the gossip, the complaints. You know who is in favor and who is out. This makes you a valuable source of information, a man to be courted by ambitious ministers and foreign ambassadors. But it also makes you a target. A single misstep, a single moment of indiscretion, and your rivals would tear you down without a moment's hesitation. You are shown into the queen's private boudoir. Marie Antoinette is sitting before her dressing table, a magnificent creation of gilded wood and porcelain. She is wearing a simple silk peignoir. The room is filled with her ladies-in-waiting, a whispering, rustling flock of high-born women. They fall silent as you enter. You bow deeply. "Your Majesty," you say, your voice calm and respectful. The queen looks at your reflection in the mirror. "Leonard," she says, a hint of playful weariness in her voice. "I am bored. The court is boring. My hair is boring. I wish to be a garden." This is not a simple request. It is a creative challenge, a command. She wants a hairstyle that is a spectacle, a conversation piece, a work of pastoral art. Your mind begins to race. A garden. It will require a complex armature, a mountain of false hair, and a dizzying array of decorations. It will be a masterpiece of absurdity and elegance. You nod slowly. "A garden, Your Majesty, a most excellent and philosophical choice. It will show the court that your spirit, like nature itself, cannot be constrained by artificial rules. You are not just her hairdresser. You are her co-conspirator, her creative partner, her spin doctor." You begin. The first step is to build the foundation. You take the queen's long, fine hair and begin to work in the pomade, the greasy, scented animal fat that will give it texture and hold. You work it through from root to tip, your fingers strong and sure. Then you begin to add the false hair, great lengths of it, pinning it to the queen's own hair and to a series of lightweight cork or wool cushions that you have secured to her head. You are not just adding volume, you are building a canvas. Slowly, painstakingly, a great, towering structure of hair begins to rise from the queen's head, a mountain of curls and braids that seems to defy gravity itself. This is only the first stage. The true artistry, the powdering, the sculpting, and the decoration is yet to come. You are an architect, and the first floor of your magnificent, temporary palace is now complete. The air in the room is already thick with the scent of pomade and the low, excited whispers of the ladies-in-waiting. The queen watches your every move in the mirror, her expression one of amused, impatient anticipation. The fate of her day and of your reputation is literally taking shape in your hands. The work of powdering is a messy, artistic, and slightly hazardous affair. Your assistants bring in a large silk sheet, which is draped over the queen's shoulders to protect her magnificent and astronomically expensive gown. You then take a large, soft brush made of swan's down and dip it into a bowl of the finest, most fragrant white powder. The powdering begins. You work the powder into the pomade-stiffened hair, layer upon layer. The air fills with a thick, white cloud, a perfumed blizzard that coats every surface in the room. You and your assistants often tie cloths over your noses and mouths, not just to avoid inhaling the powder, which could lead to respiratory problems later in life, but to avoid sneezing at an inopportune moment. To sneeze on the queen would be a scandal of epic proportions. The powder serves several purposes. It degreases the hair, which might not have been properly washed in weeks, as washing was a complex and infrequent process for the nobility. It sets the pomade, giving the towering structure a firm, matte finish. And most importantly, it creates a perfect, uniform white or gray canvas, a symbol of aristocratic leisure and a stark contrast to the sun-tanned skin of a common laborer. Once the hair is fully powdered, it is no longer hair. It is a sculpture, ready to be decorated. Now, your true artistry begins. You are creating the poufo sentiment, the hairstyle of feelings, and today's feeling is pastoral escape. You begin to add the decorations, which you have brought with you in a series of carefully organized boxes. You are not just adding ribbons and pearls. You are creating a landscape. You take small artificial trees made of silk and wire and plant them in the powdered curls. You add a flock of tiny sheep made of spun wool. You create a winding path with a string of small, polished river stones. You might even add a miniature model of a rustic farmhouse and a tiny shepherdess, complete with a miniature crook. The ladies in waiting watch, their whispers a mixture of admiration and envy. They know that this hairstyle will be the talk of the court for the next week. They are already planning their own, less elaborate copies. The queen herself watches your progress in the mirror, a small smile playing on her lips. You are not just her servant. You are her collaborator, her friend, the only person who can translate her moods and desires into a physical, visible form. You share a quiet, intimate language of style. You know that when she asks for a simple style, she is feeling politically cautious. When she asks for a naval battle on her head, she is feeling patriotic. And when she asks for a garden, she is dreaming of her private retreat at the Petit Trianon, a fantasy world of rustic simplicity far from the rigid etiquette of the main palace. Finally, after several hours of intense, focused work, the masterpiece is complete. The queen's head is a magnificent, absurd, and breathtakingly beautiful pastoral landscape. It is a towering achievement of artifice and engineering, a testament to your skill. It is also incredibly heavy, and the queen must hold her head perfectly still to avoid causing a miniature landslide of sheep and trees. You give one final dusting of powder, a sprinkle of silver dust to simulate morning dew on the leaves, and you step back. You bow deeply. Your Majesty's garden is complete, you announce. The queen rises, and the court for the rest of the day will revolve around this creation. Her hairstyle will be analyzed, interpreted, and gossiped about by everyone. It is a political statement, a fashion trend, and a work of art, all at once. Your work for the day is done. You are handsomely paid, and you return to your Paris apartment, your mind already buzzing with ideas for tomorrow's creation. Your life is one of immense pressure and constant creativity. You are the king of an ephemeral kingdom, an empire of hair that is built anew each morning and brushed away each night. But your world, like the towering hairstyles you create, is built on a fragile foundation. The immense expense of these creations, the sheer absurdity of having a naval battle on one's head while the common people of Paris are struggling to afford bread, is becoming a symbol of the monarchy's disconnect from the reality of the nation. The whispers of your rivals at court are nothing compared to the growing, angry murmur in the streets. The same public that once celebrated the spectacle of your art is beginning to see it as a symbol of aristocratic arrogance and waste. Your powdered secrets are not just about fashion. They are about a system of privilege and inequality that is about to be consumed by a storm of revolution. A few years later, the same crowds that once cheered your creations will cheer the fall of the Bastille. The queen whose hair you so carefully sculpted will be taken to the guillotine, her head held up for the crowd to see, no longer adorned with gardens and ships, but matted with the dust and blood of the end of an era. And you, Monsieur Leonard, coiffeur to the queen, will have to use all your wit and ingenuity not to create a beautiful illusion, but to simply survive the reign of terror. You will have to trade your powdered wig for a revolutionary cockade and hope that no one remembers just how close you once were to the throne. Imagine a vast and powerful empire, one that stretches for thousands of miles along the spine of the Andes Mountains. It is an empire of immense wealth, of sophisticated engineering, and of a complex, centrally planned economy that manages the lives of millions of people. But this empire has a secret, a profound and startling absence. It has no written language as we know it. There are no scrolls of parchment, no clay tablets covered in script. So how does such a massive and complex state function? How does it keep track of its taxes, its census data, its warehouse inventories, its military deployments? The answer is not on a piece of paper, but in a bundle of colored strings, a strange and beautiful object known as a quipu. And you are a master of this abstract art. You are a quipucamaic, a keeper of the knots, an imperial accountant of the Inca Empire. Your office is not a dusty room, but the great Inca road system itself, and you are never without the tools of your trade. A collection of strings that hold the secrets and the statistics of an entire civilization. Your life is one of numbers, of memory, and of profound trust. You were likely chosen for this role as a young boy, selected from a noble family for your exceptional memory and your aptitude for mathematics. You underwent a long and rigorous apprenticeship under an older quipucamaic. You did not learn to read or write words. You learned to read strings. You learned the meaning of the different colors. A yellow string might represent gold or maize. A red string might represent soldiers or war. A white string might represent silver or peace. You learned the decimal system that the Inca used, how the position of a knot on a string could signify ones, tens, hundreds, or thousands. You learned the different types of knots, a simple single knot, a complex figure-8 knot, each one representing a different number from 1 to 9. A knotless space on a string represented 0, a concept of immense mathematical sophistication. Your training was not just about memorizing the system. It was about internalizing it. The quipu was not just a tool. It was an extension of your mind. You learned to read it not just with your eyes, but with your hands. You could run your fingers along the strings in the dark and feel the numbers, the texture of the different knots telling you the story of a provincial harvest or the size of a llama herd. Your mind became a living database, a repository of the empire's essential data. The physical quipu was your hard drive, and your trained memory was the processor that gave it meaning. The Inca state was built on this system. Without you and your fellow accountants, the empire would collapse into administrative chaos. You are the invisible scaffolding that holds the entire structure up. Let's follow you on a typical assignment. A provincial governor, an APU, has sent a request to the capital city of Cusco for a new consignment of bronze axe heads for his soldiers. The Sapa Inca has approved the request. Now, the transaction must be recorded. You are summoned to the central storehouse in Cusco, a massive stone building filled with every conceivable commodity, from freeze-dried potatoes, chuno, to colorful woven textiles. Come by. Another quipucamaic, the keeper of the storehouse inventory, is there to meet you. Together, you will record the transaction. He unfurls his master quipu for the arsenal, a vast, complex object with hundreds of pendant strings. He finds the string representing bronze axe heads. By reading the knots, he can tell you exactly how many are currently in stock. Let's say there are 5,000. The governor has requested 500. You take out your own, smaller quipu, a portable device you carry with you at all times. On a new pendant string, perhaps a gray one to represent metal, you tie a series of knots. 5 knots in the hundreds position to represent 500. This is the debit tablet. The storehouse keeper then performs a subtraction on his own quipu. He unties the knots representing 5,000 and reties them to represent 4,500. The inventory is now updated. This transaction has been recorded, not with ink, but with the tying and untying of knots. It is a system of three-dimensional tactile accounting. 2 copies of the record now exist, yours and his. This provides a system of checks and balances, a way to prevent fraud or error. Your job is not just to record, but to transport the data. You are a human USB stick. You carefully roll up your quipu and begin the long journey to the governor's province. You travel along the Great Inca Road, a network that allows you to move with surprising speed. You might be given a litter carried by runners, or you might travel with a llama caravan. As you travel, your quipu is your constant companion. You protect it from the rain and the dust. It is more valuable than any gold you might be carrying. It contains information, and in the Inca Empire, information is power. Upon arriving at the provincial capital, you present yourself to the governor. You unfurl your quipu and read it to him and his own local accountant. You show him the string that records the shipment of 500 axe heads. The governor's Quipicameac will then add this information to his own master quipu for the province, recording the arrival of the new supplies. The physical axe heads will arrive weeks later by llama train, but the information, the official record of the transaction, has arrived with you, traveling at the speed of a human messenger. This system allowed the Inca to manage a vast, centrally planned economy with astonishing efficiency. The central government in Cusco could know, with a fair degree of accuracy, the contents of every storehouse, the size of every herd, and the population of every village in its vast domain. But your job involved more than just accounting for goods. You were also a census taker and a historian. Periodically, you would be sent to a village with the task of updating the official census. You would go from house to house, your quipu in hand. You would record the number of people in each household, broken down by age and gender. A string might represent the men, with knots indicating their age groups: boys, able-bodied men fit for military service, and old men. Another string would record the women. This information was vital for the state. It allowed the government to calculate the labor tax, the MITA, that every household owed. It allowed them to know how many men were available for a new military campaign, or how many people would need to be relocated to a new settlement. You were, in essence, creating the demographic database that allowed the state to manage its most important resource, its people. The quipu was also used to record history. While some scholars believe the system could not record narrative language in the way that writing can, others argue that a more complex form of quipu could be used to record myths, genealogies, and the histories of the Inca kings. A Quipicameac trained in this higher art would not just be an accountant. He would be a historian, a rememberer. The knots and colors of his strings would not just represent numbers. They would act as mnemonic triggers, cues for the recitation of a long, memorized oral narrative. When a new Sapa Inca came to the throne, these historian accountants would be called before him to recite the great deeds of his ancestors, their quipus serving as their script. They were the living libraries of the empire, the guardians of the collective memory of the Inca people. Their minds and their strings held the story of a civilization. Your position as a Quipicameac places you in a unique and often precarious social position. You are not a nobleman in the traditional sense, a man whose power comes from land or military prowess. But you are not a commoner either. You belong to a specialized class of intellectuals, a kind of civil service priesthood. Your power is subtle but immense. You are the gatekeeper of information. A provincial governor cannot hide the true yield of his harvest from you. A general cannot exaggerate the number of his troops. Your knotted strings are a source of objective, unarguable truth in a world of political maneuvering. This makes you essential, but it also makes you dangerous. If a powerful official wants to skim a little from the state storehouses, you are the one who stands in his way. Your integrity is your greatest virtue, but it could also be your greatest liability. A powerful enemy could try to discredit you, to accuse you of making a false knot, an error in your accounting. In a system built entirely on trust and memory, such an accusation could be ruinous. Life on the road is a constant feature of your existence. While some Quipicameacs are stationed permanently in a single location, like the great storehouses of Cusco, many, like you, must travel. You are the auditors, the census takers, the men who carry the data of the empire from one end to the other. You travel with a degree of comfort unknown to the common man, often carried in a litter, a sign of your official status. But the journey is still arduous. You cross high mountain passes where the air is thin and cold, and you descend into humid jungle valleys. You are a constant presence on the great Inca road, a familiar sight to the Chasca runners and the llama herders. Let's consider the physical nature of your work. The quipu is not just an abstract collection of data. It is a physical object, and its creation is an art form. The strings are spun from the wool of llamas and alpacas, dyed with natural pigments to create a spectrum of colors. The process of tying the knots is precise and demanding. You must have a deep understanding of the base 10 system and the ability to represent complex numbers through the placement and type of knots. It requires not just a mathematical mind, but nimble fingers and immense concentration. When you are not actively recording data, you are likely practicing, creating sample quipus to keep your skills sharp. You are also responsible for preserving these precious documents. A quipu is vulnerable to moisture, to insects, and to the simple passage of time. You store them carefully, rolled up and kept in dry, protected places. They are the library of a civilization without books. Imagine a scene of great crisis. A massive earthquake has struck the southern part of the empire. The Sapa Inca in Cusco needs to know the extent of the damage immediately. He needs to know how many people have been killed, how many homes have been destroyed, and which roads and bridges are out of service. This is a task for the Quipicameacs. A team of accountants is dispatched to the disaster zone. They travel quickly, and upon arrival, they begin their grim work. They go from village to village, counting the dead, assessing the damage to buildings and storehouses. They record all of this information on their knotted strings. The data is then given to a relay of Chasca runners, who can carry it back to the capital with incredible speed. Within a week, the Sapa Inca will have a detailed, quantitative report on the disaster, allowing him to organize a massive and efficient relief effort. This is the power of your system. It is a tool for managing an empire in a way that no other civilization of the time could. But there is a fragility to this system, because it relies so heavily on the trained memory of its practitioners. It is vulnerable. A Quipicameac is not just a user of the system. He is a part of it. If you were to die unexpectedly, a piece of the empire's memory would die with you. While the quipu itself is a physical record, its full meaning, the context, and the narrative associated with the numbers is held in your mind. This is why the training of new Quipicameacs is so vital. You must constantly be passing on your knowledge to the next generation, ensuring that the chain of memory is never broken. As you grow older in your profession, your status increases. You might become a master accountant, a keeper of one of the great provincial archives, responsible for dozens of lesser Quipicameacs. Your mind is a vast library of statistics, a detailed map of the empire's economy. You can recall from memory and from your knotted strings the tax records of a particular village for the past 20 years. You know more about the true state of the empire than almost anyone, save perhaps the Sapa Inca himself. You are a quiet, unassuming man, a servant of the state. But in your hands, in the simple, colored strings you carry everywhere you go, you hold the power that makes the Inca Empire possible. You are an accountant of the Andes, a man who can tie a knot and, in doing so, bind an entire civilization together. The city of Istanbul, the magnificent heart of the Ottoman Empire, awakens to the sound of the call to prayer echoing from 100 minarets. It is the holy month of Ramadan, a time of fasting, of prayer, and of quiet contemplation for the millions of Muslims in the city. From sunrise to sunset, the faithful will abstain from all food and drink, an act of profound devotion and self-discipline. But for you, the scene is different. You are standing not in a mosque, but in a gilded cage. You are in the private menagerie of the Sultan, within the sprawling, secret grounds of the Topkapi Palace. The air here is not filled with the scent of incense, but with the thick, musky, and deeply unsettling smell of great predators. And you are here to witness one of the most bizarre, terrifying, and symbolic rituals of the Ottoman court. You are here to watch the Sultan fast with his lions. This is not a public spectacle. It is a private, almost mystical act, a tradition shrouded in secrecy and whispered about in the coffee houses of the city. The Sultan, the Caliph of all Muslims, the shadow of God on earth, must demonstrate not only his piety, but his absolute and divinely ordained power over the natural world. And what better way to do so than to share his fast with the king of beasts? The tradition is a complex tapestry of ancient Turkic shamanism, Persian royal ideology, and Islamic piety. The lion, a universal symbol of kingship and power, is seen as a reflection of the Sultan himself. To fast alongside them, to demonstrate mastery over their savage instincts even while they are hungry, is to prove that the Sultan's power is not merely political. It is cosmic. It is a sign that he is a true Padishah, a master king, whose authority is recognized even by the most ferocious of God's creatures. You are a member of the Bastanchi, the Imperial Guard. Your official job is to be a gardener for the palace grounds, but your true, unspoken duty is to be the Sultan's elite guards, his secret service, and his executioners. You are one of the few people trusted to witness this private and dangerous ritual. The menagerie is located in a secluded part of the palace gardens. The lions are not kept in small, cramped cages. They are housed in a large, sunken enclosure, a pen chain, designed to mimic their natural habitat, with rocks to climb on and a small stream running through it. But it is still a prison. The lions are a living symbol of the Sultan's vast empire, creatures captured from the remote mountains of Anatolia or sent as tribute from a vassal state. They are beautiful, powerful, and profoundly lethally bored. The preparations for the Sultan's visit are meticulous. The enclosure is cleaned. The lions, great Barbary lions with magnificent dark manes, are groomed as best as one can groom a lion. The Sultan arrives in the late afternoon, just a few hours before the fast is to be broken at sunset. He is not dressed in his heavy, formal robes of state. He wears simple, clean white garments, the attire of a humble penitent. He is accompanied only by a few of his most trusted advisors, the Grand Vizier, the Chief Eunuch, and you, his silent, watchful guards. He does not enter the enclosure, of course. That would be suicide. Instead, he takes his place on a raised, gilded pavilion that overlooks the lion pit. He sits on silk cushions, a small table before him, and he begins to pray, his prayer beads, his tesbih, moving slowly through his fingers. Down below, in the pit, the lions are restless. They have not been fed all day, in solidarity with the Sultan's own fast. Their hunger is making them agitated. They pace back and forth, their great, muscular bodies rippling, their low, rumbling growls a constant, menacing soundtrack to the Sultan's quiet prayers. A raw, bloody carcass of a goat is placed just outside their enclosure, its scent driving them into a frenzy. They roar, a sound of such power that it shakes the very air, a sound that speaks of primal, unrestrained violence. But they cannot reach it, and the Sultan sits just a few feet away, seemingly serene, his eyes closed in devotion, a man fasting while the beasts below him starve. This is the heart of the ritual. It is a test of the Sultan's baraka, his spiritual charisma, his divine favor. The belief is that his piety, his connection to Allah, creates a palpable aura of power that can soothe and control the savage beasts. His ability to remain calm and focused while the lions are in a state of hungry agitation is a direct demonstration of his spiritual mastery. It is a high-stakes performance. Any sign of fear from the Sultan, any flinching at the sound of their roars, would be a sign of weakness, a crack in the divine facade. You and your fellow guards stand with your hands on the hilts of your scimitars, your eyes darting between the Sultan and the lions, every muscle tense. You are there to protect him, but you know that if a lion were to somehow break free, there is little you could do. Your life and the life of your master depends on the strength of the iron bars and the power of his faith. As the sun begins to set, a cannon booms from a distant part of the city, signaling the end of the day's fast. This is the moment of truth. Servants appear with a simple meal for the Sultan. A few dates, a piece of bread, a bowl of soup, and a cup of water. He performs the ritual ablutions and then, with a quiet Bismillah, he breaks his fast, eating with a slow, deliberate grace. And at the exact same moment, the gates to the lion's enclosure are opened, and the carcass of the goat is pushed inside. What follows is a scene of terrifying, primal violence. The lions, their hunger now unleashed, descend upon the carcass with a savage fury. They tear at the flesh, their great teeth ripping through muscle and bone. Their roars of hunger are replaced by the wet, crunching sounds of feeding. It is a brutal, bloody spectacle, and the Sultan watches, eating his own simple meal in a state of serene detachment. The contrast is the entire point of the ritual. He is a man of discipline, of control, a master of his own appetites. The lions are creatures of pure, unrestrained instinct. He is civilization. They are wilderness. He is the spirit. They are the flesh. By fasting with them and then feasting while they feast, he is demonstrating his absolute superiority over the animal world, a superiority that mirrors his absolute authority over the human world of his empire. The ritual is also a deeply personal spiritual test for the Sultan himself. The month of Ramadan is a time for introspection, for contemplating one's own mortality and one's relationship with God. By bringing himself into such close proximity with these powerful symbols of death and raw, untamed nature, the Sultan is confronting his own human fragility. He is reminded that for all his power, he is still a mortal man, and that his life, like the life of any of his subjects, is ultimately in the hands of Allah. The roaring of the hungry lions is a memento mori, a reminder of the chaos and violence that his own divinely ordained rule is meant to hold at bay. It is a way of strengthening his own faith through a direct, terrifying confrontation with the raw power of God's creation. For you, the humble guard, the experience is a confusing mixture of awe and terror. You are a simple soldier from a village in Anatolia. You believe in the power of the Sultan, but to see it demonstrated in this way is something else entirely. You are a witness to a mystery, a sacred drama played out between your ruler, a pack of hungry predators, and the God they both serve in their own way. You do not understand the complex theology behind it, but you understand the power. The sight of your Sultan, sitting calmly and eating his dates while lions tear a goat to pieces just a few feet away, is a memory that will be seared into your mind forever. It is a lesson in the nature of power, a power so absolute, so confident, so divinely sanctioned, that it does not even flinch in the face of the wildest, most savage forces on earth. As you escort the Sultan back to the safety and luxury of his private chambers, you are left with a profound and unsettling understanding of the man you serve. He is not just a king. He is the master of lions. The significance of this ritual echoed beyond the palace walls, even though few witnessed it directly. Stories, embellished and transformed into legends, would trickle out from the palace, carried by guards like you, by servants, by the whispers of the harem. The common people in the coffee houses of Istanbul would speak in hushed, awestruck tones of how the Sultan, in his piety, had commanded the very lions to fast with him. These tales became a vital part of the imperial propaganda, a powerful tool for reinforcing the Sultan's quasi-divine status. In an empire filled with diverse peoples, restless janissaries, and ambitious pashas, the Sultan's authority could not rest on military might alone. It had to be buttressed by an aura of spiritual power, of a unique and personal connection to God. The story of fasting with lions was a perfect parable for this power. It was visceral, memorable, and deeply symbolic. It transformed the Sultan from a mere political leader into a spiritual master, a man who could tame the wildest of beasts through the sheer force of his faith. For you, the Bastanchi Guard, participation in this ritual, even as a silent observer, elevates your own status. You are one of the chosen few, the inner circle who has witnessed the Sultan's sacred power firsthand. This shared secret binds you closer to the throne. When you return to your barracks, you might not speak of the event openly, but your demeanor changes. You carry yourself with a new authority, the quiet confidence of a man who has stood at the nexus of worldly power and divine mystery. You have seen something that few will ever see, and it marks you. It reinforces your own loyalty, your own belief in the divinely ordained nature of the man you are sworn to protect. You are not just guarding a king. You are guarding the axis of the world, the man who keeps chaos at bay, both in the empire and in the animal kingdom. Let's consider the lions themselves. They are more than just props in a royal drama. They are a living collection, a symbol of the vast reach of the empire. The menagerie at Topkapi was a source of immense pride, a zoological testament to the Sultan's power. It contained not just lions, but leopards, elephants, and exotic birds, creatures sent as tribute from the farthest corners of the known world. The care of these animals was a specialized and dangerous profession. The keepers of the lions, the Aslanhain, were men of incredible courage and skill. They understood the animals' moods, their habits, their needs. But it was a job with a very high turnover rate. A moment of inattention, a misjudged movement, could result in a swift and gruesome death. The fasting ritual placed these keepers under immense stress. They were responsible for managing a pack of hungry, agitated predators in close proximity to the most powerful man in the world. They would have used long, iron-tipped poles to guide the lions, to keep them from fighting with each other or from charging the bars of the enclosure in their frustration. Their own safety, and the safety of the Sultan, depended on their ability to read the animals' behavior and anticipate their actions. They were the unsung, terrified stagehands in this grand imperial performance. The tradition itself was not without its critics, though any criticism would have to be whispered in the most private of settings. The more orthodox Islamic scholars at court might have viewed the practice with suspicion. While fasting was a pillar of the faith, this kind of theatrical, almost shamanistic ritual, with its focus on the Sultan's personal power over nature, felt uncomfortably close to the pagan traditions of the Sultan's Turkic ancestors from the steppes of Central Asia. It was a practice that blurred the line between pious devotion to God and the promotion of a personality cult around the ruler. Was the Sultan honoring Allah, or was he using Allah's name to glorify himself? It was a dangerous question, one that was best left unasked. And there was always the risk of failure. What if, one day, the Sultan's baraka was not strong enough? What if the lions did not remain calm? What if, driven by hunger, they turned on each other in a savage battle in front of the fasting Sultan? Or what if, in a moment of pure, animalistic rage, one of them managed to break through the bars of the enclosure? Such an event would be more than just a disaster. It would be a cosmic catastrophe. It would be an undeniable sign that the Sultan had lost the favor of God, that his spiritual power was a sham. The news would spread through the empire like wildfire, fueling rebellions and palace intrigues. The entire legitimacy of his rule could be shattered in an instant. Every time the Sultan performed this ritual, he was not just testing his faith, he was gambling with his empire. As the month of Ramadan draws to a close, and the city prepares for the joyous feast of Eid al-Fitr, you are once again on duty, guarding the palace. The lions are well-fed and sleepy now, their roars replaced by lazy yawns. The Sultan has once again proven his mastery. The empire is secure, but you carry the memory of that night with you, the image of that single, serene man, praying quietly while the embodiment of savage, hungry power roared just a few feet away, is a lesson you will never forget. It is a lesson in the complex, theatrical, and often terrifying nature of power. It has taught you that the greatest empires are held together not just by armies and laws, but by stories, by rituals, and by the carefully constructed illusion of a power so great it can command the very beasts of the field. You are a humble guard, but you have been granted a glimpse into the dark, mystical heart of the machine you serve.